you all for joining this session. As you can see, my name is Joshua Kwabla, and I'll be taking us through this 2-hour session. So you can consider me your pilot. We'll be looking at problems to sustainable solutions using design thinking in fintech. One will ask, why am I mentoring this track? I believe that the next leap in our financial inclusion system, I mean, as Ghana, will not only happen because we can build a lot of apps, but primarily because we are building apps that people can really understand. Like Agbamami, who cannot speak English, but Ewe only, or the man who speaks Ekoso, or the farmer in Northern region who only understands Dagati. This is where we want to take app building. It's not for the one who already is confident in using the newest flagship iPhone. We are looking at that old man who barely even comes online or even knows how to buy data. And that would only happen if we have a human-centered process in thinking about what we are building for these users, how it impacts them, and how the community benefits as a whole. So today's agenda will focus on what problems we are trying to solve and maybe how to identify the problems. We would look at a design thinking methodology of thinking, defining, and then having a sustainable product. We would ideate through a few ideas and also look at some solutions, and then do a quick fintech reality check on the ideas you intend to pitch. And then there might be some take-home assignments. So just to prep you, I would say that this might be the only track, or this is one track I know that would have a lot of assignments and would require a lot of collaborations. That is me and you. I would really be excited. You stop me in between, ask questions, raise your hands, unmute, and respond to a question. That would make this session fantastic. If you don't do that, it will be very, very boring, and I'll be forced to run through the slides and we'll just go home without giving you the tip. As I can see, Ola and others looking at getting the grand prize. Right. So let's look at Ghana's fintech. Let's just look at a snapshot. As at 2025 December, we're told that we are financially inclusive and at a very high rate, 81%. What does that mean? Well, we moved from 68, that is from 2021, and look at the leap, 81. It tells you that so many people are jumping onto new payment systems and are excited about it. Around the same time, we noticed a high registration rate for Momo accounts, 80.5 million. Quickly, just fact check. How many, who knows what Ghana's population is? You can unmute and just answer. You can never be wrong on this in this conversation. So if you know it, kindly unmute and respond. Anyone?
33 million.
Perfect. So we we are told it's between 33, 35. Well, we're always growing. So if we have 80 million people registering, having registered SIM cards that can transact Momo, then you know what is happening. Now, out of that, we have 26 million active Momo accounts with transactions to the tune of 518 billion assets. December 2025, 982 million. This, I believe, is an opportunity. But then, wide numbers we see in here, especially the registered accounts. Do we still have a very wide gap of inactive accounts that is like close to 54 or 54, 50, something around 54 million users who have multiple SIM cards. And on that quick story, I sent money to an artisan who was working in a house, and well, I've been waiting for the account details and it wasn't coming. So just around 8 p.m., I just didn't want to hold the cash because I might also spend it. So I sent all his money to the phone where we were having a conversation on the number I knew. Then he called me, "Oh boss, Charlie, you spoiled the thing, give me you." If you've heard that story before, you know what he did. I won't be the one to still here. I'm sure you all understand what he did and why he's saying, "Charlie, I spoiled the thing, give him." That is an opportunity. But if you still don't know why he exclaimed, I spoiled his money for him, I mean, we would get there. But if you know, you can smile. I can see someone laughing. All right. So there is a problem. But before we move to what the problem is, I believe that we can't say there is a problem when we don't have an evidence of what the problem is. And we can't even think of a solution if we don't have an evidence of the problem we are trying to solve. And until you have an evidence, you can't solve the problem right. So let's look at this image and tell me what you see. Kindly unmute yourself and just tell me what you see randomly. Yeah. Or you can raise your hand and I would yeah, I see Godfred.
Okay. I see someone riding a bicycle, but then he has kind of like covering his trousers so that it does not lean to his shoes or something. That's what I see.
Okay. Ola, I saw your hand.
I see the back tire of a bicycle and someone's leg with a blue socks and a blue shoe, white ropes, and a clip onto the edge of his trouser or his shoe.
What else does anyone else see? Like I said earlier, you can't be wrong. And according to the host, I'm allowed to mention anyone's name here. So if you don't want your name to mention, kindly unmute and then speak, or just raise your hand and I'll call you. Anyone else? I see Belinda. And I see Eugene Baidu, and I see Collins. Any response from you? Okay, we can move on. So everyone sees something from their own perspective. Someone will see this picture and say, "Oh, he doesn't want the baggy trousers he's wearing to, get stuck in the in the either in the spokes or whatever, or he doesn't want to get it dirty with some grease, or maybe he has a fashion sense, so he's matching the paper clip to the bike. Maybe he just bought a new socks from a new what do you call it, line, product line. He's trying to exhibit it, or he just like has a weird fashion sense. Or someone will say, Charlie, there's a genuine problem here. He's got a scar just right beneath where the clip is, and when the trouser comes down, it might be bruising that part, and he just feels like he should clip it just a little above. So there is a problem this user is trying to solve, and we won't be able to tell until we do what? Until we speak to that user. Now, I want each and every one here to grab a pen and a paper. Referring to the contestants or participants of this hackathon. Kindly grab a pen and a paper, and let's do some small activity. Now, I'm looking at what you are trying to build, right? But before you even write anything on the paper, I want you to try and think about being the grand prize winner. What fintech product would you build with that money? Or if you are given 1 million Ghana cedis, which is far beyond that prize money, what would you be building? Would you look at it from an idea, or we want to build a blockchain app that does so and so, and then you start thinking of technology, then you build a product, and then now you find users? Whatever comes in your mind, whatever approach you feel you should use, you can write it down. But I think that there is a better approach to identifying or solving that problem, and that starts with people. So primarily, you finding an innovative product that touches on the human needs must actually start with people, the ones you are building the application for, or the software for, or the system for. Now, if anyone has written what their idea is and how they intend to go about it, you can unmute and share, or raise your hand and I'll call you. Anyone?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, go for it. Let's go.
So with us, what we have seen that people are trying to do already is that most people using the public transportation space, especially when they go to new cities or new towns, they have to ask strangers for directions and help to find the nearest bus station or the drop station to get to their destination. And more importantly, when they get on these buses, sometimes they have to even to beg the mate to be able to pay via Momo and other things. So based on this evidence, what we are looking at is that we want to build an AI intelligence system for routing intelligence, where it comes with audio and even visual gestures that can help visually impaired and even sound impaired people to navigate around the transport space, and then they can also be able to pay via Momo if they want to. So this is what we are exploring in that space.
Perfect. I like the way you went about it. Anyone else? Like I said, you can't be wrong. So feel free to It could even be another idea, not exactly what you want to pitch for this hackathon. So feel free to unmute or raise your hand and I'll call you. Right. Now, you can tell that Godfred's team has identified a problem. But then what I would want to ask Godfred is, do you have any evidence that your users see that problem?
Yes, I would say yes, because yesterday, for example, we went to Obra Spot, and then there were the instance of where someone was trying to pay via Momo, and then he had to negotiate with the mate, and the mate was a bit skeptical about it, but then he eventually accepted the payment. So I think that's also another form of evidence. And also we also have friends among us who will be asking us, they want to go to this event or that event. How did they take short to that very destinations? So those are the evidence that we are basing around.
Okay. Okay. Good. That's good. So primarily the learning curve here, or the learning the idea here is that we need to identify the people, we need to identify the problem, we need to have an evidence, either by speaking to the individuals, that okay, what exactly is happening here. Let them tell you this is their problem. Now that you have an idea, you can prototype, test, and then now build something. But it's not just a straight line. There's something in the mix, which I will share shortly. So we have a problem. We have an idea, and that's what Gideon has shared. But then, what makes a great fintech solution? What makes a great fintech solution? We'll create a persona shortly, and we'll try to use her through our discussions. So I would say Efua, who is a susu collector somewhere at Medina, and that's what she does every day. So in trying to build a solution or an app or a system that would ease her life, we need to be able to quickly ask her or see from her perspective if one should actually want a solution for anything she's going through or what problem she's trying to solve. Would Ifua actually want a software to change her life? 2, between now and demo day, is it feasible? Can we realistically build that system before demo day? 3, is it viable? Can the idea we are pitching right now, or the idea we are pitching to Ifua, even if it's unclear yet, can it sustain itself as a business? Would Ifua, who be willing to pay something small and then that can be offered to her at a fee, or at a fee, very an insignificant fee, or maybe for free? We need to be thinking this way. sustainable? Can we create a long-term economical, social, and or environmental value out of that? After this hackathon, if you are supposed to run this as a business, how would you sustain it? How would you sustain it? So I'll ask again. Even as we go through this 4 lenses, I need you to put on your white sheet how you intend to sustain this. Either you win, even if you don't win, even if you are last on the list. Is it a business that can take care of yourself, your family, and a million other Ghanaians? I need you to think about this even as you ideate. This here will lead us into our design thinking phase. But then, one thing I need you to think about or have in mind is that if from the previous slides, I mentioned that we have close to 80 or we have over 80 million registered Momo accounts, then the first tier of the 4 lenses is already taken care of, which tells you that there's already desire. So you're not only going to build something for an existing market or you're not just building something, but you're building something that's already trusted, something that already has an existing market. So adoption is assured. So I need you to start thinking from that point of desirability. Is it in desire? Do people want it? Do they need it? If they don't, then you need to think twice. So this design thinking in itself is a concept that was that has been there's a framework that has been designed by the Stanford Design School, and it has 5 models or 5 stages within the model, but it's not linear. It's iterative. Now, it has the first phase that suggests we empathize with our users. So we need to understand the real people we are designing for, not just by wishful thinking, but rather we need to observe, we need to speak to them. We don't have to assume. 2, we need to define who and what exactly we are doing. So if we learned that IFWA has a big challenge, or IFWA stresses about something, IFWA also collector, she stresses about something, then now what you've learned that she's stressing about must be turned into a problem that you can relate with, one, and simply explain to someone else, and then now start finding a solution to it. 3, we need to ideate. So you have to now challenge all the assumptions you might think of. At this stage, we are not thinking of any quality idea. We want quantity. So if Godfred, if your team members suggest, oh, Charlie, let's add PayPal, let's add this. This is not the stage to say, no, it's not a good idea. At this stage, you are just listening. You are just listing down all your ideas. Think it through them, agreeing, fighting, agreeing before you commit to the very first one you all seem to agree to. Then we can start our early prototyping where you start building. But this is not time to invest in serious or heavy infrastructure. You can even do local host. Cheap, affordable, but still gets the work done. Just to test your hypothesis. So at this stage, you are putting your proof of thought, your proof of concepts. You are fine-tuning them. Then we do what we call testing. This is not the kind of testing you do with your teammates and everyone tries the app and they're like, oh, Charlie, this is working. No. You need to put it in front of real users. And then you learn from their experiences. You listen to whatever they say. Oh, the key was, as you type, it's not that smooth. It's moving from one screen to the other is a bit this. You take down those notes. Then what happens? Because we know these 5 stages are not like in a linear form, they are iterative. It's a straight line. We can now move from the testing back to empathizing with the user because they have shared their experiences. We move back to defining, and then we go through the process again. And this continues. These iterative steps continues until we get to a point where our users are excited. This brings us to where I'll tell you that don't design for everyone. Don't design for everyone. Now, if you just joined this conversation and you are a designer in your local church or something, I'm not saying that don't design for free for your church people. No, this is a different thing. Even in that case, you should know your customer. So back to our conversation. Now, don't design for everyone. Avoid telling us that, oh, my app is for Ghanaians. Oh, it's for young people, SMEs. Don't just throw jargons about. Don't just say, oh, unbanked people. We won't hear you. Rather, tell me that we are developing a system for a 27-year-old informal retailer who receives most of her payments through Momo, but doesn't know how to keep proper records or proper daily sales. This sounds clearer in even the developer team's mind. It becomes clear for your team to understand what exactly you are trying to build. So let's look at an example. We know that we have a friend called Ifua at the Madina market. And we also know that her main job is to collect susu daily. If you are on here and you don't know what susu is, you will know shortly. But if you know, I would want you to unmute, raise your hand, and then just walk us through what the daily susu pattern looks like, what they do when they get to the market. Like I said earlier, this conversation would be very, very interactive. So I want you to talk back at me or talk back to me whilst I talk to you. And I don't want Godfrey to raise his hands or Ola. Anyone else here who knows how the susu, how Ifua trades in the Madina market? Anybody? Just so, okay, we have Elizabeth on the line. Kindly unmute and speak.
Okay, good morning, everyone. So, Susu, I'll say it's an ancient money, and it simply involves that the one in charge goes about taking money on a daily basis, and then saves it, say, at the end of the month for each individual who is interested in saving their money. So basically, it happens in the market. It happens in some business centers. So that's what I know about. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. So we can assume that if who we've identified to be 41-year-old collects Susu in the Madina market, and she manages roughly, let's say 20 clients who do daily savings. And they are doing it just from memory. So when Ifwa gets to Agbamami, she takes her 50 Ghana cedis and then notes on a piece of paper or some notebook. So for her, the persona we are creating for her will say that maybe she worries constantly about miscounting someone's balance. So the team at this point can identify a pain point. Now, how then do we empathize with Ifwa? With the empathy map you see, one, we need to hear her say something. We need to think what she's thinking. We need to do something or think of what she would do to solve her problems. And then we need to feel what she's feeling so that we can properly help her. So we can say, for example, that in the quadrant of say, what does Ifwa say out loud about her problem? So we could hear Ifwa say something like, oh, I need to collect, the contributions from these people every morning. And that's something I have to do. We can also hear her saying something like, some of the customers, they don't pay on time, oh, Charlie. You get the car, if I want me to tell you, Charlie, she not made enough sales to go and come. We can also hear if we're saying, I have to keep proper records for everyone's contribution. We can also hear if we're saying, customers want to know how much they have saved, even when they just call you on the phone. We can hear if we also tell us that, hey, today that I'm carrying 1 million Ghana cedis, I feel scared, though. It's very risky, especially on the streets of Accra, if you know what I'm saying. If your phone has been snatched before, I'm sure you can understand it perfectly. If not, we pray it doesn't happen. What is she thinking? Who can help us with what you think Ifwa might be thinking? Having identified how I went by the first quadrant of say. Anyone? Anyone? Echo Texan, if you are speaking, you are muted. So in the thinking quadrant, in her mind, we could think, or we could feel her say something like, How can I make sure I don't lose track of someone's contribution? What if I make a mistake in my record? Someone gave me 200 and I wrote 20. How can I keep my customers' money safe? The questions that will be going through her mind, you will have to talk to her to know. And they could be enormous. In the doing quadrant, we can be thinking of what Ifua does as a school collector. What does she do on a daily basis? So, like Elizabeth mentioned earlier, she visits the customers, she records them, she keeps track, she counts where they are. I mean, she has a mind map of where every customer is. So she does that every morning. She gives the customers updates when they need it. And she keeps a very huge notebook where she records records and receipts where she needs to give one. Full scan in her brain and a blue pen, sometimes red. She's feeling responsible because if the bad guy gets lays hand on that money, that's the end. She's worried about losing the money. She's frustrated every single day when the customers they fail to pay. She's always under pressure to manage multiple clients. This morning, she's collecting. The next moment, someone is calling, sister, it's mid-month. Can I get part of my susu money? Then someone is also asking, oh, I want to stop saving with you. I'm traveling out of the country. When can I get all my money? Amidst all this, she's concerned about security. So the feeling. So you don't just design for everyone. Pick a persona. Think about what they will say. Think about what they will think. Think about how they do what they do on a daily basis, and try to feel what they feel. And you can't feel it. You can't know how they do it. You can't think how they think it. You can't see how they say it until you do what you talk to them. Until you talk to them. So if you are here, you have a team on here, and you haven't gone through these 4 quadrants yet, and you know the stack you'll be using. You are thinking of the platforms, AWS, are thinking of Excel. My guy, stop and come back to these 4 quadrants. Understand what the customer needs, and then move forward. Or like one of my professors will say, you proceed accordingly. Otherwise, there'll be a problem. Now, when asking, don't just ask them. Don't just ask Ifwa, for example. Oh, Ifwa, if I build so and so for you, would you use it? You would always get a nice answer. Oh, yes, it will help. It will really help me. Oh, it will make my life easier. Don't do that. Ask them questions that would help you understand their journey properly. How are you currently solving this problem? What's frustrating about your current process? How often does it happen, and what does it cost you? Have you tried X before? And why didn't it work for you? Ask about how they felt, not the intention, their behavior. So that the user journey will not only be after or before, but you would have one that is before, during, and after. So you need to understand the process to be able to identify where the pain is. So, for example, we need to send money to someone, or you need to send money to a family member. There, you need money. Either find an agent or you have an app. You initiate the transaction. You enter a number. You confirm. They confirm receipts. Then they get their money and you're also free. But where do you see a pain point in this cycle? Tell you a story and I move on. About 2-3 months ago, a watch seller tracked some gentlemen. And why were they being tracked? They would buy watch over the phone, to the tune of 500 Ghana cedis and all, and then send a receipt of payment to the vendors. But interestingly, the vendors do not hold the Momo phone because, yes, the owner also doesn't trust them. So when they receive the receipt, okay, they release the watch and it goes and it continues. Close of day, they check their balances and they are short 500, 1,000, 1,005. Hey. And they have to pay out of pocket. And they kept saying, we are not stealing money. Even the woman installed CCTV just to monitor. They were not stealing money. So where was the money going? Then they realized that the monies that were coming in via Momo were not tallying up based on the receipts they had received. In the day of AI, you can just run something through AI to generate some nice receipts for you. So they monitored who buys and shows those receipts. And they started tracking, only to know that these guys were faking the receipts and were not sending the money. Do you see a pain point in here? How can the vendor who is actually selling and the manager who has a Momo phone, is there anything between these two that can be reconciled such that that challenge is what is eliminated, that problem is eliminated? That is how you need to be thinking. So you need to see the whole pipeline and identify where the pain point is. Then you will be solving the problem. Is there any question so far? Right. Now, let's define what that journey sometimes can look like. For example, I'm trying to buy mobile data because I was browsing online and then I ran out. I noticed I ran out. My service gets interrupted. So what do? I dial a USSD code from memory, or if I've saved it somewhere, I pick it and I dial. I navigate a menu. I select the bundle I want. I confirm the price. I wait for confirmation, SMS. Then I begin browsing again. What do you think is lost in this pipeline I just explained? thinking of this alongside the mobile money transfer example, there is something obviously lost. And if you think about it, you would be able to pitch a very human-centered, solid product. But if you're unable to do that, then there will be a problem. So you can think about it from the perspective of Ifwa, where she understands that record keeping is a problem for her. And her customers always want to know what their financial position at every time of the day. If you understand what the problem is, then you will be able to find what a solution by thinking, oh, we might make a financial record keeping effortless. I mean, you make that pipeline very effortless for them, even for an informal trader. Let's look at how we can get all this sustainable. When we mention sustainability, I know most of us here will be thinking about the Sustainable Development Goal logo as part of your slides. You say, oh, yes, our solution is sustainable. Yes, it is inclusive. If it's just the batch, then I'm sorry. It won't even get you to the last position. Think of something that is really sustainable. A solution that turns people's problems into actionable solutions that can make them excited whilst solving other problems that surround them. So, like I said earlier, from observation, traders find it very difficult keeping records. Informal traders would always, if you've been to Agbogloshi, you will know, they struggle to even understand their daily cash position. If you go to her and say, oh, the yam you sold today, how much have you made so far? They have to stretch that pouch and start counting for you. And they also know that recording manually is time consuming. So there's an opportunity. How might we? And that is how you start defining your problem. How might we? And this is something I need every group to write down somewhere. Something they can ask their target audience. How might we solve this problem for you? Until you ask that question, don't start. Don't start building. So we all know that even you yourself, you know that if someone sells you, if you sell something to someone and they pay you via Momo, the first question you would ask is not to check your phone. You will first tell them, can I see your screen? If they tell you they can't show you, you won't even exchange the product, even when the money has landed on your account. Just because you've not received an alert yet, you tell them, can I see your phone? And when you have seen that, you now tell them, wait, let me confirm. So then, if there's anyone you know who is in that situation, who sells and receives digital cash, you want to ask them, how might we make this process very seamless for you? We're not thinking technology at this point. We're not thinking apps, no, just asking simple questions. How might we? So based on this, I have, I think about 7 activities that I would read out, and I want all teams to write this down. I understand that the fintech and digital service track will be 3 different sessions this morning, this afternoon, and on Monday. So you would have the opportunity to speak out and share this activity, else we'll still reconnect on it throughout the mentorship. 1, who is our user? So you can just write, our user is ... 1. 2, they are trying to ... 3, they currently struggle because ... Can I move on? Can I move on? 5, this matters because ... Then you come to this question. How might we? It means that you know who your user is, you know what they are trying to do, you know their current pain points, you know why it matters to them. Then you can now ask, how might we? Even that you're not guessing, you're still asking them. And I need this short prompt to be answered by everyone in your team. Or everyone in your team should ask various groups of individuals, and you all should think through the responses you got, and that should fine-tune what you're trying to solve. Now, your product should have sustainability as part of the process, not at the end, not by just putting the badge on there. For your product to be sustainable, 1, you need to know who will pay for it. So I'll come to the lobby and I'll ask that general question. Who will pay for your product? Ola, who do you foresee paying for the product you're building? Godfred. Ola, did you say a school?
Yes.
Okay. Godfred, who do you foresee paying for your product?
I foresee the passenger, and also we're also looking at where the station themselves could also pay for it, because we also build solutions for them.
There are more than 2 people on the line, so anyone else want to share who they perceive will be paying for their products?
The business will pay for our product
Which
since
business?
it helps them.
You mean corporate Ghana?
Yes, corporate, small business, they would pay for it. Yeah.
Okay. Ola?
Yeah, I'm just understanding your question. So who I foresee paying for my product is MTN Ghana, because what we're building is basically kind of for them.
Okay. Anyone else? Anyone else? Okay. So Ola, I want to ask you a question since you mentioned MTN. What happens if MTN doesn't pay for your product?
We can pitch it to other telecommunication organizations.
What if they don't pay for
or
it?
other businesses. Technically, it's like customer service. It's a customer service system, so other businesses can also benefit from it.
Okay. Well, Caleb, what if the corporate Ghana doesn't pay for it?
SMEs can pay for it, so they are more likely or easier to get them even to pay for than corporate here.
Okay, Niamu, who will pay and what if they don't pay? Niamu, I saw your hand up.
Hello.
Yes, we can hear you loud and clear.
Hello. My network is a bit lagging. So
Oh, we can
not
hear
really
you.
getting
Please go ahead.
But okay. But from the statement here, if an MTN stop funding it, you can actually do a premium version of whatever the product is, so that the users pay to use the premium.
Your line isn't very clear, but can you? I heard freemium or premium, something close. But if you can come again.
Yes. So I was saying in case MTN should stop funding the product, we can actually use the premium and add features and then make it premium, so that in case you also want to experience the full return on the product, you have to go in for the premium version, which can be a case of funding.
Okay. Okay. So what if all your customers get stuck at the premium level and they don't move up? How do you foresee being sustainable? I know most of you use Spotify, and I know most of you would always hear their ad every like 10 minutes, and it's very annoying. But you haven't bothered to pay the 12 cedis they're asking you to pay. So if that happens to your app, what would you do? You don't have to respond. Right. So under the economics umbrella, you need to understand who will pay, how much will they pay, what revenue model are you looking at using, and would it even survive if MTN decides not to pay or fund you or fund your idea tomorrow? 2, it needs to be socially inclusive. It needs to be accessible. You need to target every gender. Yes, every gender. You need to target languages that do matter in our ecosystem. Ghanaian languages, for that matter. So if it's something that will be used in Volta region, set Ewe. If it's going to be used in Northern, you know. If it's going to be used in Bono, you know. We can't create a French application or an English application that only speaks those languages, and then we say we are delivering it to people in Bono East. It won't work. Our even as we design our products, you start thinking about who you might be excluding. If you jumped ship without even thinking about who the user is, and you started designing the product, then you might be designing for Ifua when she doesn't need an AI intelligence system yet. All she needs is something to just enter her details. Could you kindly mute yourself?
I did the sheet.
Yeah, but kindly mute yourself. Can you hear me? Can you give me a thumbs up if you can hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Perfect. Environmental. Are we going to be hosting on at a data center? And how much energy are we using? What is the cloud or AI computational cost? What are the device requirements? The device requirements. Are we thinking e-waste? You need to ask yourself, does this solution even require like a new hardware? Or can the same outcomes be achieved with less infrastructure? Then you are building a sustainable product. That's the only stage you are building a sustainable product. So you can see a stats below. We lost 3.87 million in SIM swap fraud just in 25 alone. We have these payment service providers also having the increasing rates in fraudulent activities. However, the traditional banking system is seeing a fall in fraud. So that should also tell you that fraud hasn't necessarily disappeared. It has only metamorphosized, or it has only migrated to a new channel. It has only been upgraded. They've just found new ways of killing the same cat. And they would be targeting the weakest channels in terms of authentication. So it is your duty to see how you can craft something very simple that still solves a unique problem, but still keeping it very sustainable by design. Let's look at how we can ideate and select the right solution. For the ideas there, I know someone will say the ideas that they are there plenty, we have plenty of ideas. How then do we identify the right ideas? And what is the process for that? It is only at this stage that we can start thinking solutions. Because now you've heard what the problem is, you know their pain points. Now it's time to think about ideas. But there is a better way of thinking of the idea. When you start by saying, oh, let's build an AI that improves their financial inclusion challenges, you're already getting it wrong. Because we understand the user, we want to start from a point where we understand their struggles to be able to build a financial product that solves their own needs. And that is something you would need to ask them. So you might be thinking, okay, do we use feature phones, mobile, USSDs? Do we even think WhatsApp? Should we be thinking APIs at this stage? Should we be thinking digital payments? But the question is, With all that we are mentioning, do we actually need them? If you are saying, oh, let's put a first record on a blockchain so that they are tamper-proof. Yeah, that is good. Technically interesting. But it's certainly the wrongest move you would ever make. Because that is not her problem. She's not even thinking tamper-proof at this point. Like someone might tamper. No, she's not thinking about that. Rather, she's thinking of how to collect her susu risk-free without errors and have the ability to track balances, not from memory, but in a better way. And once you start reframing your ideas leading to solutions in that manner, then you are building a proper product. So there's something we call the crazy eights. I would suggest that every team at this point, just around the concepts that you want to build, rewrite 8 crazy ideas. Don't spend too much time on that. Just among your team, let everyone take a sheet and write 3 crazy ideas just around that. That solves the pain point. And then based on that, you guys can start doing some, not evaluation, but looking at ideas and seeing if those ideas are worth pushing forward to be what you actually present in the form of a pitch. In selecting the idea or the solution, there is a little filter, which we saw earlier. Would Ifwa need it? Would she desire it? Can we build it in this time frame? Would it be viable? Can it sustain itself financially, or would it survive financially? Sustainability. Can we create a long-term business, or can we have long-term value for what we are thinking right now? Impact. Does it meaningfully solve the problem IFWA has? And then finally, scalability. How can we go beyond just this pilot? If you're not seeing, or if you don't know how to go beyond the pilot, you need to start thinking. If you don't know if you don't see how this is going to impact your user, how it's going to meaningfully solve their problem, then you don't have an idea or a solution yet. If it's not sustainable, you can't start. If it's not viable, you can't start. In fact, if it is not desirable, yes, you have to strike it out, because your user has told you what their pain point is. We have to understand at this stage that technology is not the same as innovation. If you start thinking technology is equal to innovation, then you have the weakest approach. Rather, you need to think about user struggles to be able to build that product, especially when it comes to financial products. You start from the problem already defined from the previous sections, then you move forward. Right. Now, at this point, you can start thinking of your MVP. I believe most of us even skipped most of the class and currently have an MVP, which they would all need to go back to review. The MVP is basically the minimum viable product. The smallest chunk, the smallest fraction of the whole system that actually matters most. What you have ascertained from your user. That smallest part, that is the pain point. So you might start thinking, oh, is the MVP just like creating a user form and collecting data? No. It's not I would say it's the cheapest version, no, or the lowest hanging fruit. You might create that and it wouldn't work. Your MVP must, one, be the most important part of the whole system, so that if that part isn't working or isn't there, you don't have a product. The barest minimum. She wants to collect money, you find a way of helping her collect the money without any blockchain complication. No, just the barest minimum. So you are looking at the smallest experiments that lets you test your most important assumption. Like I said, it shouldn't be the cheapest. So if you jump here and say, oh, we've built a full stack backend, then you have misunderstood everything that we are talking about here. So how then do you identify your biggest assumptions? You have to ask, what must be true for our idea to work? The users must trust us. The users will pay for this. The users must have this kind of device. The users will share their data. Merchants will adapt it. Partners will integrate. Regulation would what? Permit it. You are testing the riskiest, but the barest minimum. And if that works for you, then you know that at least this one here has made it. If you are in the fintech category at this stage, then you have to know one thing. People must trust what you want to build. And they must be convinced that it will change something in their lives. Because most of you right now know of a lot of fintech apps that you haven't even bothered to download or even use. Why? Because you don't trust them. So you don't want to add your product to that list of apps that will not be downloaded or USSDs that will never be dialed. Even talking about it being trusted, you have to start thinking inclusivity. So if our brother who is visually impaired is supposed to use this application, once knowing that, yes, they might not be able to see the alerts or the notifications, but just hear them. And they are supposed to base their trust on just what they're hearing. Would they even use it? If not, you're not building a fintech app. There are 6 reality checks. In these reality checks, the 4th is the most important at this stage. Trustworthiness and scalability. If they trust you, you will grow. Look at Momo, if you doubt what I'm saying. 80 million subscribers. 80 million people, or 2 or 3 times our population, went to the store and bought the SIM card because they understand that the platform is trustworthy, even when they themselves are not. Scalability, it grew. This is the same as desirability, feasibility, and viability from section 1. Because once the fintech idea that you have is desirable, it's feasible and viable, it would go through these two highlighted blocks must be met. It can be desirable, it can be feasible, it can be viable. But if these 2 aren't there, it will fail. But once you are able to check these 2 boxes, even just check the trustworthiness, 6 would just follow. But you will need to have checked the trustworthiness first. So the question is this: if Afua desires your product and she sees it to be feasible, and she is willing to use a USSD that you have built in 48 hours, and she sees it to be viable, which is something that she would have to tell us, and she sees your application to be trustworthy, which is the hardest one, and if everyone confirms that, oh, the balances she's seeing in the app agree with what she sees in her big notebook, for starters, then I can tell you, you are building something that is scalable. But if there is any doubt around here, then you would have a challenge. So these 6 points that applies to Afua will certainly apply to you. Now that we have trusted your product, how can we take that from it just being a problem to making impact? So I asked a question earlier, and most of you said, oh, This is how we're going to do it. This person will pay. That person will pay. Is that going to be a challenge? Let's keep that somewhere. For you to move your product to a stage where it makes impact, you need to be looking at the problem specific. You need to be looking at what interventions. Here we are talking about how. Okay, let's even have a working example. Say one of your SMEs or you identify an SMEs that are struggling with working capital, and that is the problem you want to solve per any of the teams here. If that is a problem, what is your intervention? Because, well, the standard collateral system might not work for them. Are you thinking of an alternate data credit assessment? What is the output from your intervention? What is the outcome? Can we have more businesses assess that same finances in a different way? What's the impact? Can the businesses rely on your system to say, oh, based on what you have built, we can present this and say, oh, we're actually credit worthy? If we go back to Ifua's problem, where she is thinking of the risk of collecting money, she's thinking of trust depending on the balances that she has. Like, she knows that if she presents a wrong balance to a client, it could bring some damaging effect on her, because now what she has is different from what the customer has. For example, what interventions can we build for IFWA? Can we do some lightweight USSD balance log for her, where she can just quickly dial and then get that figures for the client, and then they also confirm from whatever system they are using, say, oh, okay, our balances do match. What will be the output? If Y is able to check her balances right in the field, she doesn't need to go back to the office. What is the outcome? There are fewer disputes. Like no one would fight with her that, oh, okay, you couldn't tell my balance and you have to go home. No, she right there and there, she's telling you. Less time spent reconciling from memory. Oh, I came last month and you gave me this, even though it's not in the book. That means that more clients will be retained because her system has showed that she is reliable. What is the impact? There are so many informal people who will now be saving with IFWA because she has showed that she identified their problem. She came out with an intervention. There was an output. There was an outcome. And the impact is very clear. She's scaling. So I want you to keep something in mind here. The impact is not just the app that we build. It is the last box. It's the last box in the chain. I mean, in the pipeline, that's the last thing. what we all see, what everyone else sees. Oh, Charlie, this thing that has been built, this is the outcome. Everyone is seeing the impact. It is physical. Like, they don't have to worry about you anymore. All they have to do is just continue to give for her money, and that is what you have built. And even as you do that, you want to be thinking about which of the SDGs are you contributing to in terms of the Sustainable Development Goals. Financial inclusion. So now, I have a quick challenge for each team. I want you to take a screenshot of the next slide. Please let me know when you're done so I can move on to the next slide. Can we move on? Each team is supposed to identify the following: the user journey, the solution. Sorry, let's take it this way: the user, the problem, the user journey. How might we solve it? Don't forget, there was a previous assignment before the how might we solve this. So you answer that, and that helps you to feed in here. The solution. What should we build? What is the MVP? Who is paying? Is it sustainable? And that question means, that question doesn't mean is it sustainable economically only, but socially, environmentally. What is the impact? What changes if we succeed? And what is your biggest assumption? Now, we would unmute briefly, and then we would respond to point 9. What changes if we succeed? I would have everyone participating in this hackathon to share just a line of what happens if they succeed. So we can start with, from my list, I see Ohene Adolfo. What happens if we succeed? Or you can unmute yourself or raise your hand, and I'll mention your name in the same order. If you want to share what happens if you succeed, if your idea succeeds, what is the impact? What will be the impact? Please feel free to raise your hand and unmute so I don't mention your name. I see some people don't want to be mentioned, so they are dropping off rather. Godfred, what changes if your idea succeeds?
I think
the impact?
what will change the impact is that it's going to create more jobs, and then we will double down on more on the payment being more or less frictionless, and also we're also thinking about how we can be able to create more jobs and be able to also to make more money, and then doubling down on the data aspects. the AI intelligence will be more quality and then be able to give more accurate responses. So that's what success will require for us. Yeah.
Next to you is Ernestina. Ernestina, what would you say your impact would be? Ernestina, Jennifer, Dinku. Are you a participant in the hackathon? Hello, Ernestina. All right, who else wants to share how or what impact they foresee? Collins. Ola.
Yes, sir.
What impact do you see? Then I move on.
For my team's project, I think people won't find it difficult to like report problems to customer services anymore. Like it will be easier than usual.
Perfect. And that includes, that is very inclusive, right?
Yes.
Okay. Your pitch per how you be graded must be very succinct, straight to the point. You will need to be responding to what evidence you have. Why would the user trust you? What happens if your users don't have a smartphone? Who will be negatively affected? Why does the idea you have need to be a fintech product? Who will be paying? What happens when you scale? Why is this sustainable? And finally, what will you test first? If you can't respond to this, if you can't respond to this in 3 minutes, then I'm sorry, you might not make it. Because this should be very, very, very clear from the word go. So I'll tell you, don't build what you haven't understood. You have to understand. You have to refine what you are building or what you have learned. You have to explore more. You build, you test, you learn, and you improve. You always would have to go through that design thinking architecture, that quadrant. You would repeatedly have to go through the quadrant where you are testing your idea, where you are sharing, going back to refine the idea, asking more questions, building, testing, and continually improving. Keep in mind that your first idea is not your final solution. Your first prototype is not your final product. Your users would continue to be your teachers. If they tell you that, oh, the pink color you're using is hurting my eye, you listen to them and you change it. But you don't just change from because your mother said oh, the pink is not my color. You will change it because your users have reported that this is a problem for them. You will change it because, or you would improve on it because the users have told you, oh, because of this tone, anytime I hear this tone, it triggers something, and that is something I would appreciate you change. Once you get reports like that, you will find when a user speaks, your team must respond proactively. And if that can be sensed from your pitch, then I can assure you, you are going to be part of a winning team. Finally, don't build what you haven't understood. Let's get to work. Thank you. Thank you very, very much for your time. At this point, if there are any questions, I'm glad to hear you. I'm glad to brainstorm with you, and then we proceed accordingly. Any questions? Bedu Eugene, kindly unmute.
Okay, good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, thank you for your presentation. I have one.
Can you speak louder, please?
Okay, can you hear me now? No more audible.
Yes.
Okay, so I have one question. So,
Okay.
since MTN is like sponsoring the hackathon,
Yes.
I would assume that like the solution has to be geared towards a fintech esque, like in that fintech space, or because like in how do I frame what I'm trying to say? Like in this presentation, we're talking about financial inclusion. So the
Yes.
product we are trying to build, would it be something like or would it have to be something in the vein that like, let's say a blind person can't really use the Momo app or can't use USSD to like interact with Momo. So if I was building like a solution that will allow them to interact with Momo using Braille or something, would that be like the type of product you're trying to build for this hackathon, or something that would bridge? Let's say I'm not looking at the blind person, but I'm looking at someone who can't hear. So I'm trying to build a solution that would they can still use the Momo app, but like it's trying to bridge a communication gap between them that would also help improve financial inclusion in that community. So it's not necessarily like I'm building a fintech tool, but it's helping bridge like a communication barrier, which would in the long run help you also but like it also help with financial inclusion for that community. So I'm building a tool that would what kind of like if people are speaking it will have captions at the bottom so people can't hear would see that oh this is what is being said. So it's not necessarily a fintech solution, but it's helping bridge a communication gap, which can help in financial inclusion.
That's a brilliant question, and thanks for asking. But what I would tell you is this: the winning team would have to develop something that is inclusive, which you mentioned. The winning team would have to solve a problem. And if you were here early, there's the first part in the empathy map says that what would the user say? So my question to you would be, what you are building right now, is it something your users have said they need? And if they need it, is it something that you can build before them a day? Once it makes sense, were you saying something?
Oh, you can go ahead.
So I'll say that once it just doesn't make sense to you, but meets the needs of a mass group and it bridges a gap, your solution is moving to the top in terms of the queue. So I can't tell you that, oh yes, you have to just build a fintech solution and that would work, because there are other categories as well. But if you believe that your users have the numbers, and even if it's a small niche that is having that challenge that you can solve, I would say that it will be considered a winning solution. If that makes sense.
Yes, makes sense.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other question?
Actually, Mr. George, he also even already answered his question. If it is supporting communication, which he already even mentioned when he was asking you, then it's one of the things we are looking out for. Now, we are not limiting you to a specific domain.
Exactly.
Yes. So whichever domain, if it is supporting communication, that is fine. I know we had mentioned financial inclusion, we had mentioned digital literacy. We really did not give any restrictions regarding your application domain. The most important thing is that it should be supporting communication, and ultimately your solution must be accessible.